The car pulled up to the curb, and after shooting one last fearful glance over his shoulder, Morgan opened the door and slid inside, melting into the dark interior. Lights from the street lamps flickered against his face through the car window as they pulled away from the high-rise, and he closed his eyes. He was alone for the first time in years, and it terrified him. He shouldn't be alone when he had a husband who'd promised to love him forever. But he shouldn't have to worry that his husband was going to hurt him so bad one day he might wind up seriously injured, or worse. Almost a year after he'd fled Jeffrey in the night, Morgan still couldn't believe he'd escaped relatively unscathed, fully convinced he would have risked his life had he stayed in the marriage. He lived with his two best friends, Chris and Sean, who, as an attorney, took Morgan's case and handled everything from the separation through the divorce. The past months had been filled with fear and tons of therapy, but Morgan was ready to take the next step and move out. Jeffrey had shown up several times at Chris and Sean's apartment, enabling Morgan to get a criminal order of protection, and it fueled Morgan's conviction to get his own apartment. He refused to put his friends' lives at risk over his mistake. His problems had to remain just that, his own. That was how he ended up at this less-than-fashionable address in a part of Brooklyn he'd neither heard of nor knew existed before he started looking for a new place to live. He followed Mike Harmon, the portly real estate agent, into the apartment, only half listening to him extol the virtues of the sad studio masquerading as a junior one-bedroom, with an alcove barely big enough to squeeze in a queen-sized bed touted as the bedroom. Longingly, he thought of the king-sized bed with the fluffy white comforter back home. No longer his home. Wandering around the purported 500-square-foot space, Morgan touched the dingy Formica kitchen countertop, the discolored spots reminiscent of former tenants, and recalled the beautiful white quartz waterfall island in the Chelsea apartment. He used to love coming home after school and cooking dinner for Jeffrey and himself. Morgan's favorite part of the day had been when Jeffrey came home. They'd have drinks, and Jeffrey would tell him about his day. Jeffrey never asked about his job or the kids he taught, but Morgan hadn't minded. His job wasn't as important. He didn't earn a quarter of what Jeffrey did. At least that was what Jeffrey told him. "Damn, you were a fool, but not anymore,"